Hi, I'm Kelly Boyle with TV Insider. We are here with Sam Reid and Jacob Anderson, the stars of Interview with the Vampire on AMC.
These men look down on you. I have to say, I find it appalling how men like yourself are treated in this country of yours. It's undeniable. I came to my wealth honestly and at great sacrifice, I might add. However, it was not the sacrifice of many. I had no partners in my various... 10%. 15%. Do you not know your value?
Just to get started, Jacob, there are some changes made to the book for this show, but I think fans will find that it's a lot more loyal to the books than the 1994 movie was. I'm wondering what your take is on shows and movies taking creative liberties with the source material that they're based on.
My feeling with adaptation is that, like, you kind of want to justify the existence of an adaptation, right? Like, Anne Rice's books are so singular. They're so their own thing. And I feel like if you're going to adapt work like that, then you kind of have to do something with it that justifies its existence as a show or like in a different format, because the books are still there. Like, and we want people to go and read the books. You know, it's not about just like a 1-1 adaptation. It's like, what are the themes and the feelings from the original source material that can be kind of can say something about how we live today as well. And yeah, I personally don't enjoy just like a direct adaptation, but I think we're very faithful to at least the feelings and the characters in the book.
Yeah, and I saw that there are some things too that weren't in the movie that are in the books that are now in this version, which is cool. So, and then Sam, what about in the context of this show? What do you think about, what's your take on the creative liberties taken for your iteration?
I think creative liberty is a complicated concept, because I think, you know, like as Jacob just said, with any adaptation, obviously it's seen through the lens of the next person who's creating it. So obviously Anne made this extraordinary world, and then Roland took that and how he interpreted it and her world and her vision and her language, he created his own thing. But yeah, it's more about the essence of the show and the essence of these characters. And it's very hard to translate a thing from a book to a television series. You need to find the private moments that characters have that don't necessarily exist in a book series that leads them to make one decision after another. So yeah, it's more about finding the characters. Yeah, and I think Roland's done that really well.
Yeah, and
that makes sense. Probably not.
No, it does. And Sam, Louis and Lestat's romance is made explicitly clear in this version, which I absolutely love. And other than it being loyal to the book, why do you think that's important for a modern series?
I mean, it's what exists in the world. I mean, you know, sometimes you hear that people say that we've made the subtext text, when actually we've just gone back to the text. It exists. So it's important to honor that, because that's what was written, and that's why a lot of people love these stories, is that this love story exists there, and it's a complicated love story, and they're, you know, complicated monsters who are in love. But it would be a real shame if we didn't honor that. Yeah. Yeah.
And Jacob, why do you think the other changes made for the show were important to include?
I think kind of to what I said about, like, why are you going to tell a story now in this specific way, and like finding the things that are still connected to these characters. They're still connected to the story, but are like Louis is a Creole man in the books. He's like described as a white Creole man, but I think that there was something about New Orleans at that time, like something about New Orleans in the 1910s that, in the 1900s, that Roland just was like, this feels like a time where vampires would thrive. It's like, there's this enterprise like sweeping into the city, and there's a thriving I mean, like the sex industry, I suppose. Nightlife.
Yeah.
But no, but as in like, you know, like it was like brothels were legal for a time. And that kind of has like sort of implications about like vampirism and the kind of sensuality of that. Although you could argue you don't even need to argue, there is this kind of seedy element to that. But if you're going to set the story in that time, it makes sense. That, you know, like, I can't remember what the percentage is in New Orleans, but I think it's like 60% black population in New Orleans, and it would be strange to not have Louis be a person of color. I think I would watch it and be like, it's a little odd to have it at that time. It's reflective of the time that the show set. Like it's an opportunity, I think, to tell the story in a way that can talk about something now and stay true to what Miss Rice wrote.
The moment when Lestat is offering Louis the dark gift, that whole scene is so like harrowing and like romantic at the same time and dark. And Sam, your words are so powerful in that scene, and Jacob, like, Louis doesn't really say much at all in that moment, but your acting speaks volumes, you know? I mean, of course, there's narration too, but like, so what was that like to film for both of you?
We shot it over 3 days.
Oh, wow.
So it was sort of, it was long. And there was, it was actually an amazing shooting experience, because we had taken a break over Christmas. We had shot a couple of days, just a few scenes at the Fairplay Hotel, and then this was basically the start of, you know, shooting consecutively for a number of months. And so we sort of arrived in this amazing church in the middle of sort of nowhere, really. It was a bizarre sort of suburb that felt very removed, and you walked in and they had all of these porcelain pews which they would light on fire, and they were just continually burning, and there was just this black, acrid smoke, and so everyone was covered in soot, and you'd be like cleaning the soot out of your nose, and you had, you know, these contact lenses and blood and stunts, and then at the same time we had this moment where we're like gonna have to, you know, make this like connection and that sets up the premise of like Louis and Lestat, you know, giving it a go.
Also, we shot out of sequence. We shot that scene out of sequence.
Yeah.
So it was probably the first time that we kind of had to like club together in that way of being like, sorry. It's probably the first time that you and I had to be like, okay, what are we doing? Like, how does this, like, how do we make this flow?
Yeah. And we had to make a lot of decisions as well. Like, how do you bite? Like, it was the first time we were biting and like drinking blood, and you had to like think about, like, you know, how much blood do you intake per sip?
Per session.
Yeah. Well, like how does each inhalation, how much? Because you're gonna have to drain a whole human being, like, and you're trying to work these decisions out. And Jacob likewise had to work out how much blood do you take from a wrist, and it was, you know,
too much.
Yeah.
All of it.
You know, and then the levels of fangs, and having all of this massive dialogue with fangs, and then thinking, no, it works better when they retract, because, you know, it takes away from the ability to understand what somebody's saying. And so a lot was discovered in that sequence.
Well, everyone be sure to tune in to Interview with the Vampire when it premieres Sunday, October 2nd on AMC and AMC+.